My thanks to the Americas Society, Council of the Americas, for allowing me to be part of such an illustrious panel. Our topic, unconscious bias to conscious decision-making, seems to resonate with everyone. It makes sense, we all have them. It's what we do about them and how they impact our careers, our colleagues, and our workplaces that we're going to focus on for the next few minutes or so. Before I turn to our panel, I'm going to provide some context about unconscious biases in the workplace. At Catalyst, we've been examining the impact that unconscious bias has had on women's careers for years. We found that these implicit attitudes toward gender and race create barriers to people's feelings of inclusion, performance, engagement, and innovation. We can't get rid of our unconscious biases, but we can take conscious, intentional actions to blunt their impact. So I'd like to turn to our esteemed panel to talk about their own experiences of unconscious biases and how it impacted their own careers. But because our time is so short, I ask each of our panelists to briefly introduce themselves prior to answering the questions. But if you could just give name, organization, just one sentence, be very brief, since the audience actually has your bios. And speaking of timing, we should have a few minutes towards the end of the conversation so that all of you can ask questions. I invite you to think about what you'd like to ask, given that we do have such a short time, so that you can be ready. We're going to have a conversation among the panel first, and I'm going to start alphabetically with Susan Clancy. Susan, please introduce yourself, and if you can tell us a little bit about how unconscious biases have affected your career.
Okay, my name is Susan Clancy, PhD in psychology. I'm a professor at INCAE Business School, and I teach a full course to every single MBA who graduates from INCAE on gender and leadership, and why women are important in getting to the top, and what the barriers are, and how to overcome them. So it's an honor to be here. I would say bias definitely affected my career, but I did not realize it until I got older. I was in the United States. I felt like everything was fine. I didn't understand what people were talking about when they said gender bias. And then I moved with my Nicaraguan husband to Nicaragua. And it was such a shock because I moved to an institution which is amazing and I love it so much and value it, but it is completely dominated by men, and the students were almost completely dominated by men. And that was for the first time that I saw that it's different being a woman. I'd like to just give two examples of biases. The things about bias that's super important that we all need to know is there are two types. There's the bias that's explicit, meaning you know you're biased and you know you're being treated in a biased way. So for example, when I was pregnant and I started teaching and people said, "You can't teach, you're pregnant." And I'm like, what are you talking about? I just ran 4 miles, why can't I teach? Meanwhile, half of the faculty was over 70 and having trouble walking. So I'm thinking, you're in more danger than I am. Why are you telling me I can't teach? Another example would be in Mexico, which I found to be a particularly challenging country. In Mexico, I got invited by a multinational in the steel industry to speak about gender diversity and leadership. And at the end, the president of that firm in Mexico stood up and said, if women like you are working and in the workforce, what is happening to the values of our great country? It was true. For me, it was the first time I've ever been speechless. That's explicit bias. Implicit bias is, I think, much more dangerous, and it affects all of us. And implicit bias, people are treating us differently from men, and they don't know we're treating us differently from men. So it is quite possible at any table you say something, and they don't hear you. And then when the guy next to you says the same thing, they do hear you. That is the kind of bias that's super dangerous. As to personal experiences with implicit bias, I don't want to talk about me. I want to give an example of a multinational in Costa Rica where I got invited to be part of the first Women's Leadership Day. And at this event, the head of this multinational, huge, gave a talk. His name was Bill. I call him Costa Rican Bill. He was from the United States, and he got up there and he said, "I'm so honored to be the one to promote this women's leadership event." And all the women there are nodding, "Thank you." And he gets up and he said, "I'd like to mentor all of you. And my mentoring advice is women need to talk less and listen more." What was the most frightening thing about this for me is that the women in the audience were not bothered. They were nodding and they were smiling, and I was almost passed out under my chair. Luckily, a newspaper reporter felt the same in Costa Rica, and at the end of the day, he had to come up on stage, and he said, it has come to my attention that I've said something that was wrong. I didn't mean to say anything wrong. Whatever it was, I'm sorry. Okay, enough.
Great, thank you, Susan. Senator Díaz.
Muchas gracias, muy buenos días, es un honor estar aquí con ustedes y lamento muchísimo la experiencia que tuviste con un mexicano, pero sin duda esto los vamos a encontrar en todas las sociedades. Y el machismo lo tenemos que ir derribando y lo tenemos que hacer de manera inteligente, de manera sensible, porque al final lo están entendiendo ya en el siglo XXI, que la participación de la mujer no solamente es necesaria, es complemento, y muchas de las empresas globales hoy tienen una alta participación de las mujeres. Yo quiero empezar por decirles que me siento muy reconocida con Susan Segal, y ya platicaré con la presidenta y con todos ustedes lo que ella hizo por nosotros en una mesa de trabajo en mayo, en donde nosotros estamos impulsando la participación económica de las mujeres en la sociedad mexicana. Y lo estamos haciendo no desde la perspectiva solamente de género, lo vemos como un tema de competitividad y de rentabilidad económica. Soy senadora, represento al norte, soy del estado de Nuevo León, y sin duda también es una sociedad conservadora. Pero Nuevo León es un estado progresista, es un estado que además se identifica por sus grandes industrias, porque hay empresas globales, porque nuestras empresas, muchas de ellas son orgullo no solamente para Nuevo León, sino para México, están establecidas en muchos lugares internacionalmente, en muchas partes de las regiones del mundo. Además, tenemos instituciones de educación superior muy importantes, no solamente públicas, sino muchas de ellas privadas, con reconocimiento en Latinoamérica y en Europa. Sin embargo, somos una sociedad conservadora y hay mujeres sumamente preparadas en las que yo les estoy apostando a esta nueva generación de mujeres que hoy nos lo dicen las estadísticas. La mayor parte de matrícula en las instituciones de educación superior pues son mujeres y representan más del 52% de matrícula. Y si habláramos también de mujeres con preparación de posgrado, vamos a encontrar que es superior al 43.7%, son mujeres que están estudiando posgrado y que tienen las mejores notas académicas. Así que estamos impulsando de manera importante y decidida las legisladoras iniciativas que impulsen la participación económica de las mujeres, porque creemos que la competitividad de una sociedad está basado en la participación, en la igualdad de hombres y mujeres por sus talentos, por sus capacidades y por sus habilidades. Ustedes escucharon una gran participación de una mexicana a la que nosotros admiramos mucho. Jeanne Díaz Barroso es una empresaria que platicó desde su infancia y he escuchado cómo en muchas de las mujeres que han estado aquí nos impacta mucho la figura paterna. Al igual que yo, en mi infancia, mi padre impactó muchísimo en mí y con ello terminaría diciendo una anécdota que me encanta compartirlas. A mí me gustaba mucho jugar con los niños y a veces pues los niños no querían a las niñas. Imagínense, yo soy abuela, calculen la edad, nunca voy a decir mi edad como mujer, como muchas de las que estamos aquí, que todavía tenemos ese estigma de no decir la edad. Y pues realmente las niñas juegan con las niñas y poco con los niños, pero a mí me gustaban mucho los juegos, quizás pues por la audacia, por la determinación con que juegan los niños, así que me sacaron del juego de béisbol y me dijeron que no podía jugar. Acostumbrada en mi casa a un trato igual entre hombres y mujeres, pues me dolió. Cuando llegó mi papá me encontró seguramente muy triste, porque es raro que esté muy triste. En verdad tengo una capacidad de lo negativo, procesarlo, hacerlo a un lado y darle para adelante. Así que seguramente ese día estaba triste, mi papá me dijo que qué pasaba y le dije que los niños no me habían dejado jugar. Entonces me dijo, vente, vámonos. y me llevó a una tienda de deportes y me compró el bat, me compró el guante y me compró la pelota. Ya que tenía todo el equipo listo para jugar con los niños de mi barrio, de mi colonia, en Monterrey, solamente me dijo, no porque tengas todo y por el hecho de ser mujer, vas a querer ser la primera al bat, vas a querer ser el pitcher o vas a querer estar en primera base. Tienes que ajustarte a las reglas y el lugar que te pongan en la fila el bat, y si no te dan los primeros lugares, ni vayas a aventar el bat, ni vayas a llegar a la casa llorando. Si tú entiendes eso, te vas a hacer la mejor compañera de ellos y te van a permitir jugar. Y así fue. En verdad fue un sabio consejo que no lo entendí de niña, lo vine a entender después de mucho tiempo. Hoy presido la Comisión de Gobernación. Por primera vez una mujer preside la Comisión de Gobernación en el Senado de la República. Esta comisión tiene que ver con la política interior de mi país. Formo parte de la Comisión de Justicia y de Seguridad Pública, y una de las comisiones que son mi pasión es la de salud. Así que he tenido que enfrentar, al igual que muchos de ustedes, barreras y obstáculos, pero nunca me hago para atrás. Siempre busco el cómo sí para poder llegar hasta donde uno quiere. Gracias, y es un honor estar con ustedes.
Great. Thank you. I think that's a great transition to the one man on our panel. As I said, unconscious biases impacts everybody. So, Nick?
Thank you. So I'm Nick Grabar. I'm a partner in a law firm in New York. I've been a partner in this law firm for 25 years or so, and I've been working there since before many of you were born. To the question about the impact of unconscious bias, there have been kind of three phases in how this has affected me. First of all, particularly in the early years of my career, but probably still, I have been a huge beneficiary of unconscious bias. And I don't think that, we didn't use those words when I started out, but you had to be an idiot not to understand that there are lots of situations in the professional and business world where you walk into a room as a white man who looks a certain way, people make assumptions about your capacities, your skills, and you learn to take advantage of those things. Phase one. Phase two, as an interrupter of unconscious bias, as I got to be more senior and I began training and leading teams that included men and women, as you may know, in law firms like mine, our entering classes are essentially 50% women, and it's been that way for 20 years. And it's that way in all the big law firms. As I started training and leading teams that were effectively 50% women, I started to realize that the effectiveness of my team depended on clients and adversaries being able to give appropriate credit to the skills of the women on the team. It just works better. It's not charity, it's business efficiency and competitiveness. And so I started learning certain skills about how to prevent people from making the wrong kinds of assumptions about the team. Just for example, you walk into a room with a team of lawyers and you have two senior women and two junior men, suddenly you have an important responsibility to think about the seating arrangements at the table, to make sure that nothing happens at that table that confirms the assumptions that everybody else has when they see a team walk in with 3 men and 2 women. So that was the second phase, learning to think about how to interrupt the biases in business situations. The third phase is as a protagonist. At some point, it dawned on me, and I'm not alone, thank God, it dawned on me that this unconscious bias exercise is something that in my law firm and in all the situations I'm in, we're all doing to the people in the room. And when I say we're all doing it, I mean the senior white men are doing it. Most of the senior people are white men. The senior white men are doing it, but you know what? So is everybody else. And so we started to think about ways in which an institution can change its culture so that we all, I'm not going to say we're going to stop doing it, so that we all palliate it, try to counteract it, try to deal with it. And to do that, we've started looking around for the levers in the culture. What do you have to change in order to change the assumptions that people make about women, and I'll say it here, it's all a little off topic, but also in our law firm, associates of color. So what are the ways in which you change the institution so that it works better? So those are my 3 phases. I also wanted to add, I have abandoned the translation because I find that I can understand you perfectly, which is interesting because our own elected officials I can't understand even when they speak English.
Great. Thanks, Nick. And last but not least, of course, is Jeanne.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here, and thanks to Suzanne and our organization to give us this unique opportunity to discuss about this very important topic, unconscious bias, because we're all talking about diversity, inclusion, but we all know that the biggest obstacle we have when it comes to inclusion is this unconscious bias. So I'm the regional president. Oh, doesn't work. I have to restart everything, or you hear me? Okay. So I'm the regional president for Latin America and Canada at Philip Morris International. And I would like to clarify what it is, because when I say that to people in general, they are asking me, and this happened to me this morning actually, oh, you are in charge of HR, or you are in charge of diversity and inclusion. No, I'm in charge of the business. And yes, I'm a woman. So just, to tell you that at least we have this kind of experience when it comes to unconscious bias all the time. And at Philip Morris, we are embarking in a very big transformation because we are a vision where is to create a smoke-free world. And in order to do that, we have developed disruptive products, which are products which have the potential to be less harmful than cigarettes. So our dream is to switch 100% smokers to those alternatives. And in order to do that, of course, you need to have the product, you need to have the right environment, but you need as well to have the right team. That's why we continue to promote inclusive environment, and that's why a few years ago we started to discuss about unconscious bias, because promoting diversity, inclusion is not enough. We need to go beyond that. And I think the biggest step we have done is for everyone working in the company to understand that we are all doing in conscious bias. We are all biased. And by knowing that, we start to make some conscious effort to mitigate it. So going back to my personal experience, I realized that only a few years ago, but I remember, we have a huge development plan in Philip Morris, and we receive a lot of feedback, and in order for you to work on that feedback and to become better and to change some behavior, adjust some behavior. And I remember when I was young, I received a lot of feedback by, well, Jeanne, you should to be more participative during meeting. You don't be shy, just say what you have to say. Well, okay, I was thinking, I don't think I'm really shy. I think I'm saying what I say. Maybe I'm doing it with my style, which is maybe calm and listening to others before to speak and not interrupting everyone. But okay, I understand I have to do it differently. And then I started to be a little bit more, where someone taking the example this morning as speaking louder and being maybe sometimes a little bit too aggressive and taking the space in meeting for me to speak out. And then after a while I received the feedback, well, Jeanne, you are a little bit too aggressive, you are a little bit too tough, you should adjust a little bit. And then it come to my mind, you know what? Just be myself. Just be who I am, and then I will make a difference, because I am someone which has to bring, like all of us, collectively and individually, and just be yourself and do what you think is the right thing to do. So yes, we have this unconscious bias around us, and we have to pay attention with that, but I'm sure we'll coming back later.
Yeah, exactly, that's perfect, because I wanted to talk about what you all did, or what do you all do in terms of fighting these, when you see it come out, when it happens, a lot of times unconscious biases and these actions are very small. Susan, your example, when that wasn't that small, but it's one of those things. What do you do to react? What do you actually?
I actually think, for me, from my perspective, it's a much bigger question than what do you do. Because the truth is, it's in the walls, it's in the air. Bias, what bias is that you are not being evaluated the same as a man. And because of that, you are not having access to the type of recognition and promotions and opportunities that he has, right? So this is not men's fault against women. There is a ton of data that shows that we too ourselves tend to evaluate women differently than men. And we don't know we're doing it. So we say, oh, I think they're equally capable. But then something inside us doesn't find them equally capable. And at the end, even if the speech was the same, even if you control for level of attractiveness, research background, educational background, we prefer the man. And that is not it's not because we're bad. It's because for as long as we've lived, leadership has been associated with men. Most of the TV shows, most of the history books, most of the great movies, we've had conditioned in our head work, leadership with men, and home and pink and babies with women, and we still have it today. So it's not that we've done anything wrong, it's that this has been paired. And because of this pairing, unconsciously, it is much harder for me to look at you and think leader than it is for me to look at him and think leader. So what that translates into is that you are being evaluated based on a different standard than the man is. And the only way to overcome this, the only way, is to ensure objective performance evaluation systems in organizations. I'm talking at the level of the interview process. Research shows in Latin America that women are asked different questions during job interviews than men. They're going to ask women, are you married? How many kids do you have? Do you plan on having kids? They don't ask men that. In Latin America, and all over the world, performance evaluations are often about, does your team perceive you as a leader? If the team is men or even women, we may not perceive you as a leader. So the key and really where the future is less about what you can do, although we need to do stuff, but more about what systems have to be implemented in organizations, what levers, as Nicolas says, that are going to help us overcome it. BlackRock Asset Management has been they have a great case with HBS about what they're doing to ensure that in their recruitment and in their performance evaluation system and in their pipeline, they are eradicating bias to the best extent that they can. Again, the only way to do it is to make sure when I evaluate you, I'm evaluating based on results that I can see and not my impression about your results. And if that doesn't occur, then we're never going to solve this problem of bias, because it's not men keeping us down. It's all of us have this inside us that make it more difficult for women to be seen as capable. Me, myself, when I'm exposed to bias, I just plow through. Because if I give up, and I do, sometimes I want to cry. Honestly, sometimes it's so bad, like when I see all of my colleagues go off for their boys' lunch, and I say, can I come? And they're all like, nah, do you want to? And I can't. And I cry a little bit, but I push forward. Because if there aren't people like us who are pushing forward and trying to make change, then nothing's going to change. Another recommendation is have a sense of humor about it. I find red wine a little bit at night is a good thing. And everything horrific that happens, it makes for a good story later. You know what I mean? We're all pioneers. And pioneers, it's not easy. We get hurt. We pick up. We keep moving on.
So I want to pick up on that a little bit, because I absolutely agree with you. And Catalyst has done a ton of research around this, and it's absolutely, as Susan said, we come from the standpoint that it's not the woman that needs to change, but the workplace environment and those barriers that need to be broken down. But to make those kinds of changes, it does take actions by leaders. And Nick, I think you touched upon this a little bit. What do you do as a leader? And Jeanne, if you can jump in as well, when you see these kinds of what's called microaggressions. You talked about how when you have a team coming into a room, it's very important to be very mindful about where everybody's sitting, who's getting directed the questions. So what are some of the things that you do?
I have it's not. I haven't found it works for me to cry a little bit. That hasn't. And the red wine is not really fruitful either. In the position that I'm in, as I lead a committee that's charged with dealing with these questions within my firm. And one of the first things that we realized is that responding to microaggression with macroaggression is an unsuccessful strategy. That we have evaluation situations that are collective, and in fact, where you're sitting around in a room talking about a person. And in those conversations, you can, if you're listening for them, hear instances of, I'm not sure I want to go so far as to say instances of unconscious bias. You hear remarks, comments, thoughts, ideas developing, as to which you ask yourself, where is this coming from? And is this coming from a place that's really fair? And challenging the speaker is rarely a successful way to go at that. You put people on the defensive. One of the things that we've found is that educating the speaker before the meeting is extremely useful. And you talk about this research as if everybody knew this. Everybody does not know this.
I know.
And it's not, with all, you probably write some of this stuff, but it's not super engaging to read either. So you have to, we have to find ways to communicate to a room that is 80% white men that they need to be paying attention to unconscious bias among themselves.
Are you listening to?
In a way that doesn't make them feel guilty or under attack.
Absolutely. But I want to just kudos to INCAE. This is the Center for Women's Leadership. When I started this center, our goal was not just to focus on women. Our goal was to go out into the multinationals and work with the men, because we said this is not an issue that the women are going to be able to change, because unfortunately you're not at the top. And organizational change comes more from guys like him than it comes from us. And we need the men who are in leadership positions understanding why this issue matters at all. Because most of them don't even see it as an issue of competitiveness in Latin America, and it is. And also what works within organizations to overcome it. And when they do catch on, it's a very eye-opening situation. It's not like they're not engaged. They are engaged because they want to make money, and you're necessary for them making money, and they need you. So this idea of forums that engage men leaders, like here, we could have a panel of men talking about what are you doing or what are best practices. So thank you so much for saying that.
I can maybe share experience here on the journey we had at Philip Morris, because we are talking for years about women in management. But the purpose was more to look 5 minutes per year, what are the KPIs, how many percentage of women we have in management. And it was just a kind of reading KPIs, no really action related to that. But we were pleased because we are looking at women in management. But what happened a few years ago is that we started to realize that this is a business issue. It's not having women in leadership. It's just that being a business issue. And why? Because the biggest business challenge we have, all of us, is to create growth in a company. In order to create growth, you have to differentiate. In order to differentiate, you have to innovate. In order to innovate, you need to have diverse team. In order to leverage on diversity, you need to have an inclusion environment. And in order to have an inclusion environment, you need to manage your unconscious bias. So what we have done, we have started to educate everybody, and especially starting with the top management, the senior management team, about the fact that unconscious bias is not the others. It's us individually and sometimes collectively as well. And by putting this awareness and by developing some e-training session and really having session around this, then we started to see some changes. We are not at the level that we would like to be, but at least we are moving in a very, very right direction. And this is just a matter of putting this issue at the center of a business problem, and also spending energy, time, organizing discussion around unconscious bias. Because as I said at the beginning, till the moment you know that all of us are biased, then you can take the right action, because you can correct yourself. And just maybe to share a personal effort, what I'm doing, I have a tendency, like I'm sure most of you guys in the room, to the first seconds you meet with someone, you have an idea about who is this person, correct? Is everybody doing that? We just, okay, I know, I understand what is this person. And then the only thing we are interested and the question we are asking is just to confirm our first impression. just confirm that, yeah, okay, my first thinking was the right one. So what we have developed is to have what we call a bias interrupters. So when you meet someone, as an example, and you start to have a thinking about who is that person, instead of having question which will confirm what was your first impression, start question that engage with the person that just give you other ideas or just break what you were thinking at the beginning, in order to be sure that you're open-minded and in order to be sure that you don't try to gather information to just confirm what you think, because we all do that. We see what we want to see, we ask questions that are related to what we think already, and by each time having that effort in mind, practicing, I think it helps a lot to change the behavior of us.
Right. One of the ways that you can do that, I think, is by establishing mentorships and sponsorship relationships. Senator Díaz, you're a role model for the position that you hold in your country and all of the things that you've done. How have you had mentors and role model and sponsors in your career, and what do you do in terms of mentoring and sponsoring women?
Sin duda, bueno, he tenido el apoyo de muchos hombres inteligentes que me han ayudado a entender y comprender la realidad para poder derribar obstáculos y barreras. Creo que uno de los temas con los que iniciamos, que era muy importante eliminar los estereotipos, los sesgos que tanto daño hacen y que a veces nosotros mismos nos autoimponemos. Y eso no nos permite avanzar. Obstáculos todos vamos a tener en el desarrollo de nuestras carreras, en el desarrollo de nuestros proyectos. Sin embargo, es la actitud la que ayuda muchísimo a cambiar y a transformar las cosas. Creo que hoy más que nunca las mujeres, todas las que estamos aquí, y sin duda también los señores, tienen talento, tienen inteligencia. Pero esa inteligencia se desarrolla a través de los estudios, de la preparación y de la capacidad. Para alcanzar un objetivo, ustedes bien lo saben, se tienen que trazar un plan. En mi trabajo legislativo, para lograr, por ejemplo, la inclusión económica de las mujeres, una iniciativa que contiene más de 5 modificaciones a leyes, pues me siento con el equipo de trabajo, que hay hombres y mujeres jóvenes, todos muy preparados y muy talentosos. Entonces se hace una guía de trabajo, no solamente qué leyes tendrían que impactar, cuáles serían los cambios y a quiénes tendríamos que convencer para que estén de nuestro lado. Sin duda una de ellas es Jeanne, nuestra amiga, que me apoyó y que ha sido también un ejemplo para muchas mujeres en el desarrollo del sector privado en México. Yo insisto en la necesidad de la inclusión económica de las mujeres, porque es la única manera de abatir la enorme desigualdad social. Miren, en México es una sociedad desigual, hay pobreza, como seguramente en muchos países de América Latina. Tenemos que incluir a las mujeres y las tenemos que incluir por su talento, por su capacidad, por sus habilidades, por todo lo que he señalado y que no me voy a cansar de decirlo siempre. Una vez que sean incluidas, esto va a cambiar, y no lo dice Cristina Díaz, lo dicen los estudios que han hecho empresas importantes para organismos multilaterales, McKinsey, Water Price House, todos ellos han hecho estudios y han señalado que si las mujeres participan en igualdad de circunstancia, no solamente estaremos eliminando la brecha, sino también tendremos el crecimiento del Producto Interno Bruto. Y eso nos va a hacer una sociedad más igual. Queremos que las mujeres sean fuertes y poderosas. El trabajo que hace Susan a través de esta organización tan poderosa en toda América nos está apoyando. Yo les comenté al principio que les señalaría una anécdota. Yo hablé con la señora Susan por teléfono cuando nosotros estábamos ya en la elaboración de la iniciativa, la habíamos presentado, con una serie de obstáculos en el camino en el sector privado. Susan tenía una visita a México y generosamente nos abrió un espacio. Susan se sentó con las mujeres del sector público que están apoyando esta gran iniciativa como es Vanessa Rubio, la primera mujer que es subsecretaria de Hacienda, la tesorera de la Federación en mi país, Irene Espinosa, la subsecretaria de Economía. Y déjenme decirles, Rocío Ruiz Chávez, pero también había un compañero nuestro, un subsecretario que fue enviado a esta tarea y que aportó valiosísimas aportaciones en el tema de igualdad salarial, en la flexibilización de los contratos laborales para que las mujeres no dejen de trabajar en el momento que toman una decisión personal. Ese componente de esa mesa, más la mesa del sector privado, fue fundamental y ahí estuvo Susan platicando con todas nosotras, pero también estaba el sector privado. Estaba Jaime Ruiz Sacristán, que preside la Bolsa de Valores en México, y que tenía ciertas resistencias no por él mismo, sino por lo que representa. Hablábamos de una sociedad conservadora donde solamente el 6% de mujeres mexicanas que tienen capacidades y talentos como Jeanne forman parte de ese 6% en consejos de administración. ¿Por qué no construir una carrera aspiracional para las mexicanas? Las que están en el sector privado y que han estudiado y que se han preparado y que están en mandos medios y que aspiran a puestos de toma de decisiones o que aspiran a ser CEO de estas grandes empresas y de estos grandes corporativos o que aspiran también, por qué no decirlo, a ser consejeras, que es la posición más alta en el sector privado. ¿Por qué no? Si tiene las capacidades y el talento. Y ahí hubo un debate público en esa mesa de trabajo muy interesante. Lo que argumentó Susan fue fundamental para que pudiera entenderlo Jaime Ruiz Sacristán, que preside la Bolsa de Valores, y que en la siguiente reunión de trabajo que tuvimos tuviera una postura más flexible. Por eso la iniciativa ha ido avanzando y hoy en la Secretaría de Hacienda, el 9 de agosto, anunció mandatos muy importantes. Uno es que el informe anual de las empresas que cotizan en bolsas de valores tendrán que señalar desde una perspectiva, yo no diría de género, pero sí de participación de mujeres, señalar cuántas mujeres están en ese corporativo trabajando, desde mando medios, dirección, hasta llegar a consejeras. Y es una manera de transparentar. Hoy en las sociedades hay rendición de cuentas y transparencia, que es uno de los adjetivos de las democracias. Bueno, pues tendrían que hacerlo también, hoy por mandato lo van a hacer anualmente todas estas empresas que cotizan en valores. Y es un cambio, se nos adelantó la política pública a la dictaminación de estas leyes. Y por otra parte también mandató la Secretaría de Hacienda a través del Gobierno de la República, que ha impulsado una fuerte participación el presidente Peña Nieto al sector de las mujeres, es que la banca de desarrollo se vea con una perspectiva de género. Así que bancos que atienden proyectos del sector emprendedor, donde la mayor parte son mujeres mexicanas, micro y pequeñas empresarias, ahora tendrán también beneficios desde la perspectiva de género. Yo creo que podemos ir cambiando e ir derribando, pero ustedes lo hacen todos los días se trazan el plan de la semana, el proyecto de un mes, el proyecto a mediano y largo alcance. Y eso es muy importante para saber. Hoy, después de un año, yo puedo decir que en este proyecto, y lo pongo como ejemplo, ya tenemos avance en política pública. ¿Qué está pendiente? La dictaminación para que quede ya en ley una nueva regulación de la participación económica de las mujeres. Y les quiero decir algo, las mujeres del sector privado me lo pidieron: Cristina, no hables de cuotas, eso lo hablamos mucho las mujeres del sector público. Me dice, nosotros somos participantes, háblanos de participación, porque nosotros tenemos capacidades y hemos desarrollado habilidades y queremos nosotros en igualdad de circunstancia participar, no nos interesa hablar de cuotas. Entonces tuve que cambiar el lenguaje y lo seguiré comentando más adelante en esta participación.
Thank you. So we're actually getting very close to time. So I wanted to shift a little bit in terms of what advice would you give young women who are coming up into the corporate world?
I love this. Okay, so this is, okay, my advice, I think about this a lot because there's nothing I'm more passionate about than getting more of you, smart, ambitious, talented women to the top. And my advice would be, to the best of your ability, ask for objective evaluation of your performance. Meaning, this is what I learned is when I first moved to Nicaragua and I had 3 kids and I had 2 kids and I was pregnant and I didn't speak a word of Spanish and people were shutting off my electricity and my friend Michelle had to come figure it all out. And INCAE said to me, you have to be in your office from 9 to 5. And I said, I cannot be in my office from 9 to 5. That's not going to happen. And the institution said, but that's what faculty do. And I said, but I'm not your traditional faculty, and I can't do it that way. And they said, you have to. And I said, tell me what I need to do to prove that I add value in this position. Tell me what are the objective criteria that show you that even though I might be working half from home, that I'm still meeting what you expect from me. And it was very clear. 3 publications, teaching evaluations, and 4 classes of over 4.5. They laid it out. And then I did what I wanted to do, but I met that performance evaluation. And after that, everything started to change. So I think what I want to say to you is don't try and fit yourself into traditional expectations for what your firms want. You are not the man that worked there for the last 50 years. You're something different entirely, and you need different things. Ask for them. Don't drop out. Don't quit your jobs. Ask for what you need and then show them that you can do what they expect from you, because they're going to need to see proof. In Nicaragua, there's an expression, lo que no llora, no mama. Did I say that right? If you don't cry, you don't get fed. Cry, say what you want, but then show that you're capable of meeting those expectations. Increasingly, multinationals in Latin America are asking for that. If you think you can take a job in managing Chile and not move to Chile, show us how you can do it. We'll give you 1 year to prove yourself. And you make sure your performance is measurable. The last thing is, it sounds cheesy, but believe in yourself. Dream bigger than you do. Because odds are the guy sitting next to you who may have less talent, less potential, and is less necessary for his organization is dreaming about how he's going to get to the top. And we don't, because we think, they don't really need us, we're not good enough. The world needs more of you at the top. And to get there, you got to believe in yourselves, and we have less confidence sometimes than men do. So I want you to push yourselves further. And when you doubt yourself, imagine the guy next to you, and he's probably not doubting himself. And that helps me move forward in my career. So that's my advice. And thank you very much.
Jeanne?
Just going back to the example he was sharing, in fact, men are asking for promotion, and they are really managing their career. And women in general, when we offer them a promotion, they ask, well, are you sure I will be able to do it? So this is really 2 different reaction. And I think this self-confidence is something extremely important. Believe in yourself. Believe as well that you are not alone, because we are talking about gender balance here, but diversity is bigger than that. It's also how an Asian culture person will work onto an American company or vice versa. So at the end of the day, really connect with the most diverse people you can in the group you are in, because you have a lot to learn from each other, how you deal with certain situations. I would like to tell you as well that what I realized the last few years, that progress are enormous. And for one reason, there's several reasons, but one which I think for me is very important is that millenniums are coming, and millennium starts to be a large part of the population. And I think women are sharing a lot of common values with the way that millenniums wants to work. They want to have more flexibility. They want to have a more work-life balance. And this help a lot for company, and I'm talking about Philip Morris here, to take conscious about that and to realize that the people will not adapt anymore to corporation, that it used to be the case. I remember when I joined a big enterprise, it was the case. This does not exist anymore. Company has to transform. And this is the biggest opportunity that we have individually and collectively, men, women, wherever where we are coming from, to help company to transform in a very, very right way. So take that as really an objective that you can transform the work environment to create a better life for you, for employees, and I'll tell you, tremendous progress. We are making, all of us, tremendous progress, and it's going in a very, very right direction. Trust in you and really enjoy what you are doing. Happy life, it's something very important. And being a woman, I promise you, you don't have to choose between having a career or building a family. You can manage both. And this is a message that we reinforce all the time, especially to the young women, because they believe they have a tendency, and maybe it's an unconscious bias actually, but they believe that, you know, they have to make a choice, maybe because of the social pressure, family pressure, friend pressure, whatever. But this is not true. And I think since this morning, we have amazing a woman sharing their personal experience, business experience, but as well as life experience. And we all, majority of us as women, and we are managing a nice career. So really, believe me, it's possible. Just trust in yourself, enjoy what you are doing, and stay who you are. I think it's something extremely important.
Nick? So I used to be a TV news producer, so I'm all about time. So if you could give, we have a few minutes, if you could just be succinct in terms of what your advice would be.
Yes, I will be succinct and modest in my advice. Women entering the workforce now should not assume that the workforce that they mature in as professionals will be like what it has been like until now. The environment in which we work, in which you work, is changing very fast, and you should bring to that your own assumptions and your own beliefs about what is required to succeed. So there will be people around you who think that the future will be like the past. Those people will be gone by the time you succeed, and they'll be long gone when you're in charge.
Great, excellent. And Senator Díaz, if you can give us the last word. We're very much at time.
Primero la parte personal, lo que sentimos en el corazón. Creo que hay que soñar y buscar una estrella para alcanzarla. Tener fe en sí mismo es muy importante para superar todo. Y ahora, siendo más realistas, somos mujeres del siglo XXI. Tenemos que cambiar urgentemente los estereotipos. Tenemos que hacer un cambio social y cultural para superar la desigualdad en América Latina. Por eso es muy importante que hablemos de mujeres que tienen talento, capacidad y habilidades. Alguien, cuando estaba con este proyecto de la inclusión económica, y también me lo advirtió, y perdón que mencione mucho a Jeanne porque ha formado parte importante de este proyecto, me dijo, no hay mujeres, no, ¿dónde están? O sea, para el sector privado. Y entonces me fui a las estadísticas que mencioné de la educación superior en México. Y es revelador el dato, como se los mencioné, más del 50% son mujeres que se están preparando y muchas de ellas ya preparadas. El talento ahí está. Y el cambio se está dando primero en las empresas que tienen la característica de ser global, son más incluyentes, como dijo Pollès, y no solamente es incluyente en la participación de la mujer, sino cuando hablamos de inclusión es de esa diversidad con la que se integra la humanidad. Entonces las mujeres tenemos que ser ese factor de cambio y hemos tenido pláticas muy importantes ya con los headcounters y con los directores de recursos humanos en mi país a través de una agrupación que hay para decirles, de 5 expedientes que llevas, no me digas que llevas 1 de mujer, ponme 3 o 2 porque tienen la misma capacidad para aspirar a esa posición. Y déjenme decirles por último que yo me inspiré, eso como les dije, soy abuela, en dos cosas. Mi nieto de 5 y mi nieta de 2 años. Ambos tienen sus cochecitos, esos los que se suben y van manejando. Y los dos los vi, la niña también limpiando su carro, porque llegan, los limpia, y los vi haciendo los dos la misma tarea, limpiando su carrito para subirse a jugar. Como mi nieto se quedó entretenido limpiando, ayudándole a la hermanita, la niña baja y sube ella sola, porque a quien la cuida, la nana, le quitaba la manita, porque quería subir la escalera sola para irse al resbaladero, propiedad de mi nieto cuando llega a los juegos. Y viendo que no estaba, aprovechó esa oportunidad. Esas son las oportunidades que tenemos que ver, porque ella la aprovecha. Se sube como puede a sus 2 años, era un resbaladero alto, sin la ayuda de quien la cuidaba. Yo la estaba observando y la estaba grabando, y cuando se sube empieza a reírse ella misma, a sonreír de ese hallazgo que ella había hecho de subir por la escalera. No olvidemos, escalón por escalón nos da mucha solidez en nuestros proyectos de vida. No tratemos de irnos por el ascensor, vayamos escalón por escalón. Eso es lo que nos forja el carácter y nos hace muy sólidos, no solamente como seres humanos, sino da la experiencia para competir. Muchas gracias por esta gran oportunidad de estar esta mañana.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I want to please help me thank the panel. And okay. So it looks like we can take a couple audience questions. We have 2 mic handlers. Again, we're a little bit over time, so please keep your questions very succinct.
Thank you. My name is Marta Navas. I'm from Colombia. I work for New York Life, an insurance big company I think everybody heard. And in paper, the company is amazing. I love it. And is very inclusive. And we love women and this and such. However, as of today, I'm facing the situation, as you mentioned, that the evaluation of the end of the year is not coming out very well for me, since I didn't put the time according to the company. That's in reality. In the paper, the company is very inclusive and nice. However, my experience now is like, by December, I'm not going to make it. And they said, like, you didn't work hard enough, etc. And I said, like I mentioned, I have a kid. I have to go early, etc. My question is, did you advise me to bring this unconscious bias conscious? Because maybe they don't know. Maybe they are assuming that everybody has to work weekends, and maybe they are assuming everybody is able to be late night in events and doing other stuff that I can't, because I'm a single mom. So would you advise me to go to my superiors and just bring the topic up now that is very sensitive because it's almost the end of the year?
No. Who, me? I would say yes, but I would take the lawyer's advice. And I also teach a class on social influence techniques. You don't go and attack. You don't go and cry and complain and be mad. You go and say, I'm really trying to get ahead in this company. I have achieved objectives. I want to understand more about this performance evaluation system. Because you go to them and you make it clear that you love this company and you're trying to keep moving ahead and you're being held back by what could be a glitch in the system. If the system is measuring how many hours you were there or whether you worked weekends, that's a real problem, because it doesn't matter how many hours you worked. What matters is, did you accomplish what you were supposed to accomplish? Does this make sense? And any chance that that system is basing your performance on how many hours or days you worked and not on what you achieved, if that's the case, then there's a problem with the performance evaluation system. So I would encourage you, this is what we need to do. Stand up and ask questions. Don't go in with a big stick and beat people up, although maybe you want to do that. Sometimes people want to do that. But go and start asking questions. Stand up for yourself, get more information, and that's how change starts to happen.
Yeah, and I would like just to add as well, I think it's a very good advice, just asking questions to understand. But I think as well, you should ask yourself why I'm in that situation, because maybe you have done things that has been perceived in the wrong way, and you have also to understand and analyze the situation. So understand from them, but as well as really understand from you maybe why they are coming to that conclusion, which I think is something also very important, because in relation there's two persons, it's not only one.
Right.
So
Now
we
this
have to do that analyze as well.
amazing woman is going to be mad at me for jumping in again, but I got to ask you a question. At your firm, which is supposedly so friendly in promoting women, what % of the firm is women? Overall. Okay. Okay, but the thing is, firms will always say, we're pro-gender. We love you, women, we love you. Our firm is half women. This is what firms are all saying. It doesn't matter. We don't care if the firm's half women. That's what it should be. You're more than half of the talent. You have to ask yourself, what's happening at the top? And if the top of the firm is still dominated by men, that is, and I think that's what you're saying. So you have a firm that's completely dominated by men, but you start out saying it's female friendly. So just, there's one piece of advice is just watch this, because what we'll see is firms have no problem getting you in the door, and there'll be 50% or more women. The problem is what's happening at the top. And what we're still seeing is all of that talent is falling out because of things like inaccurate performance evaluation. And that's why, again, we got to keep fighting. It could be you, it could be the performance evaluation, but we won't know unless you start asking questions.
Great. I think we're going to have to end it there. Thank you so much. Please help me in thanking our wonderful panel.
Nada más un asunto, haz una tarjeta con los indicadores, con los resultados. Cumpliste las metas, eso va contra el resultado, y creo que es un buen argumento para dialogarlo con tu jefe.
Great. Thank you so much.